while we are all kind of waiting for 11:40, we have a pre-session question up for you. What pedagogical strategy or instructional technology have you found most useful in the past year? Um, Feel free to take a couple minutes to think about it, and once you have an answer, feel free to add it to the session chat.
We've also got a poll queued up for you so we can kind of get to know who's in the room and what you're doing and who you are. So you'll also find a poll under the polls section of Hopin asking you what role you serve at your institution. Though I'm seeing from the people tab, also I'm getting to learn a little bit about some of you too. I see we've got some IDs in the room. Carla hosts live remote study sessions and online courses as a way for online students to engage in real time. So I'm assuming that's a online asynchronous course. So finding those opportunities to host those synchronous sessions, I think is super important. And especially I found when there's a topic, like kind of a reason of sorts, instead of just opening it up as like open office hours, saying, okay, come to learn about X, or to kind of focus the conversation a little bit, I have found helpful as well. It sounds like you as well. Anyone else about pedagogical strategies or instructional technologies most useful in the past year? We just learned about, what was it, Critic a moment ago, which is a tool that Chris and I have both not heard of, but we're going to share a little bit about what we're doing both pedagogically and technologically at Montclair State University. Dixie says, creating meaningful, engaging discussion posts have helped. Optional live Zoom sessions. Awesome. Lauren is in ID at the University of Delaware. So it's always nice to, I think, connect with our ID colleagues. And that's part of what I'm going to talk about a little bit as we kick off. Carla's using Miro boards to encourage ideas. Very cool. All right, so let me get started. Let's kick things off a little bit. So our presentation from Seed to Blossom, Pedagogical and Technological Growth at Montclair State University. Some of you in the room may know me from my time at Rutgers, but my name is Joe Yankus. For those of you who don't know me, I'm an instructional designer with Montclair State University's Instructional Technology and Design Services Group. And today I'm joined by...
My name is Chris Petrillo. I'm also an instructional designer with Instructional Technology and Design Services at Montclair State University.
And so the Instructional Technology and Design Services Group provides instructional design and technology support to Montclair State. So we're kind of the centralized instructional design unit for the university. So faculty come to us for support with Canvas, support with some of the tools that Chris is going to talk about in his section, and support for instructional design and the course design process, which I'm going to talk about for a few minutes. So our objectives for today in terms of why we're here and what we're doing, kind of twofold, right? So for the instructional designers, instructional technologists in the room, we're here to recognize our shared goals as IDs, and I think that's really the beauty of these events, of these conferences, to connect and realize that often we're all aiming for the same goal, just at different institutions, and we're doing some similar work, just in different spaces. So I think it's a really nice opportunity to come together, hear a little bit about how we at Montclair State are achieving these goals with our faculty, related to course design, related to faculty development initiatives, related to technology support, and that's really what we're going to talk about today. And for the faculty and staff in the room, or anyone else really, just if you came here maybe to hear some new ideas. We've already learned about a new tool that we didn't know about at Montclair, so maybe something we can look into, but maybe we're hoping that you'll learn something about the way we do things at Montclair, whether pedagogically, technologically, and maybe leave here with a new idea or two, maybe some inspiration for how to apply some of these technologies based on the way faculty are doing it at Montclair State. So that's our hopes for today. But I'm going to kick things off for maybe the next 15, 20 minutes or so, talking about some of the pedagogical initiatives at Montclair State and what we're doing in the ITDS group to support faculty at Montclair. So as you know, for the instructional designers in the room, which I think I know there's a fair amount of you, one of the challenges we face is the thoughtful attention to how a course is going to facilitate learner to learner, learner to content, learner to instructor interaction, and how can we build courses that facilitate all these different avenues of connection. And for us at Montclair, our solution has been what we call the OCIA model, OCIA model. It's a standardized format to reference when faculty are composing learning modules and encouraging all necessary combinations of interaction and engagement. So it really gives a template and a structure to start assembling these learning units and these learning modules. And it's one that we rely on at Montclair to sort of offer that perspective to faculty of how to hit all these different interaction points with the content, with the instructor, and with the learner. And just to break it down a little bit, OCIA, again, orientation, content, interaction, and assessment. And you'll see in a minute that this template is baked into all of our courses at Montclair. So each semester, when faculty get their course sites in Canvas, there is a template module that contains this model. So to review a little bit what this exactly means, the orientation piece of this sets the learning context for each learning module. That's where we put our learning objectives. That's where we put our module requirements. If there happens to be a module introduction video or just a written text introduction to the module, the orientation page is basically the landing page for the module where faculty would input all of that information. And then, of course, the C for content, that's where all of the actual learning modules content is happening. And that's where students can view maybe lecture videos that are being produced or other content that you've curated and assembled for the particular module. And interaction refers to any of those various ways that we can facilitate interaction among students and with the instructor. So whether that's written discussions, synchronous web meetings, group activities, using some tools like Flipgrid and VoiceThread, which Chris is going to talk about a little later. And finally, assessment or activity, just an opportunity for students to demonstrate that they've achieved those learning objectives that we've set them out to achieve in that learning module. So this OCIA model, again, for those faculty maybe who are new to teaching and are looking for that kind of structure to get them started, this provides that skeleton instead of just looking at a blank Canvas site and saying, well, what do I do? What do I put here? Where do I put things? It really provides a nice model for them to go off of. And it's the model that we use as well in our instructional design process when we work with faculty for online program courses, or even just to help faculty get their Canvas course sites together for face-to-face courses as well. It's served as a really nice model for us to get the conversation going about what should be in a learning module and how we can organize our content in our courses. So what you're seeing here, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about our course design process later, our formal course design process, but this is part of what we ask faculty to do when we collaborate with them on course design. But this sort of just lays out for our purposes here some of the details, again, that can go into the OCIA model and what would go onto each of the various pages or sections of that particular module. So again, you see the orientation page with the introduction, learning objectives, and requirements. And these are some of the things we talk through faculty with, again, on the course design side, or even just helping them set these modules up. And the content, helping them think through some of the various means that they can provide content to their students through readings, videos, or other means. And the nice thing about opening this up for conversation here is that it allows us to make sure that courses have kind of that the content is represented in different ways, right? We're not just fully relying on written articles. We're not just fully relying on video. We're sort of asking the faculty here, baking it into our process to say, have some readings, have some videos, and kind of break up the way the content is shared in the course. And then again, for interaction and assessment, just helping them think through what opportunities students will have to engage with one another in that module, and then what activities or assessments we'll ask them to complete. So we've talked a little bit about standardizing the course design process, but again, with module design, our OCIA model and the sample module that we include in all of our Canvas sites, again, really asks faculty to think about how to organize their content in this way. And this deals with the issue of faculty coming into Canvas, seeing a blank site and not knowing exactly how to sort their content. So again, this OCIA model offers that. And just to give you a little bit of insight into what that looks like, when an instructor gets their course at Montclair for each semester, there again is this one template module that is there. And we encourage them, of course, to duplicate it if they'd like to use this model. And each of the pages within this module contains some guiding language as well, pointing them towards, adding a description, adding their objectives and whatnot. So it's become a really nice way to open the conversation about even things just like learning objectives, right? The idea of having these for each module, seeing this might at least cue the instructor to think about that a little bit and think about, oh, I don't necessarily have learning objectives for my modules. Maybe I should think about writing them. So it is a nice opportunity to kind of create a bridge for us to collaborate with people as well and to think about these points. So similar idea to infusing our Canvas courses with this template module. One of the other areas where there was sort of a lack of consistency was with syllabus design, right? Of course, each school at Montclair and similar at Rutgers, they might have different designs for their syllabi, might have different information that's being included. There could be some resources that maybe should be included, but you might have a new adjunct instructor who doesn't know very much necessarily about all the different resources available to students at the university. So what can we do to make sure that students have access and the knowledge of all the different services that are available at whether it's Rutgers, whether it's Montclair, or University of Delaware, or wherever? How do we get that information to students? And one of the avenues to do that is through the resources we include in our syllabi each semester, right? So our solution at Montclair was to offer a syllabus template, again, that's baked into every single Canvas course site that is added each semester to Canvas. And it offers a standardized design while including a list of some of the student support resources to ensure that all students are made aware of those support avenues and the resources that are available to them. And if you're curious what that looks like, so again, the syllabus template, in addition to those resources, but at the top of our syllabus template is just some general fields where instructors can fill in some of the different information that we would expect to list on the syllabus. So course description, course learning goals, professor information. And again, similar to the module template, it can accuse instructors to say, oh, I really should include the description, the goals, and sort of gives them, again, that template and that structure of what we're hoping and expecting would be included in the course syllabus. And again, related to university policies and campus resources, I just included a screenshot here so that you can see what that looks like and some of the different things that we mentioned. So again, COVID safety, which of course has been on our minds for the past 2 years or so. Students with disabilities in our disability resource centers, highlighted campus climate for civility and human dignity. So all these different policy related issues and campus resources are listed here. So again, if I am hired at Montclair as an adjunct faculty and I may not be aware of some of these things, it's all included here in the syllabus template. So it's become a really nice way to get this information, not just to our students, but also to our new faculty or our adjunct faculty, and again, people who might not be in the know of every resource that we have. So talking about faculty development a little bit, right? What are some of the different avenues that we have to support our faculty in the regard of training and all of that? So our big event of the year, and I'm going to ask Chris to chime in a little bit here on this one, is our annual Summer Institute. It's been an event that's run since 2006, normally a 2-day event showcasing best practices on how to implement effective instructional strategies. And really, it's just similar to this kind of a internal Montclair conference of sorts, if you will, to have faculty come and talk about all the different current issues and events with instructional design. And I joined Montclair last year, so I have only seen this event in its online COVID conscious form. So I'm going to let Chris talk for a second about what it was like in its face-to-face form, which we're hoping to get back to in some capacity maybe this year.
Really hope we can get back to face-to-face. But yeah, so I joined ITDS back in 2017, and even back then we went from a 1-day event to a 2-day event just because we had so much to share from ourselves and from also faculty that we invited to come talk with us. And And it's such a great event because we get to showcase a lot of the really nice things that folks are doing around the university that some of us may not have even heard of. I found out that there were two faculty that have a writing podcast that they got to share with us. There were faculty that were able to share the different kinds of strategies they use. Where this one gentleman, he would use diagrams and draw and like cartoon to explain his concepts in class, and I was just, wow, what a brilliant strategy. We also can showcase new technologies that we're excited to bring to faculty to use in their classes. And it's such a great networking event as well because it puts us in contact with faculty who can come up to us and say, hey, I have a really cool idea. I'm really interested in what you just talked about. Can we work on something? And so it's just a great day, a 2-day event for just exchange of ideas and just kind of coming together as a community.
And one of the things that the not necessarily mentioned here, but that we deal with at our unit at Montclair is that there are certain programs and groups and schools at the university that we collaborate with very closely on a number of online programs, and then there are others that we hear from less or don't necessarily have that active networking with. So this is a nice way to also kind of do outreach with other schools at the university who we may not necessarily work with on online programs on a regular basis. And somewhat scaled back, but related to that, we have a spring symposium. Again, looking forward to the upcoming semester, reflecting on what we did in the fall, and like Rutgers Online Learning Conference, I would say the Summer Institute's probably the closest one to that. But again, just an internal event. Our spring symposium is kind of a smaller, but also a relevant event where we can bring in external speakers, faculty presentations, instructional technology workshops, and more. And we've started recently, I think in the past year since I arrived at Montclair, doing more focused series-based trainings and events, like our assessment practices series. We've done, I think, three or going on 4 of them. So it's been a really nice opportunity to bring faculty together to talk about something a little more focused. So in this case, assessment strategies and things related to academic integrity. And I think we had one on integrity. We've had and a few others so far. And then our preparing for upcoming semesters event, where again, just like the spring symposium, but bringing faculty together sort of at the start of each semester to have these conversations about what we're doing, what's coming up, where we are with technology and updates related to those technologies, but also pedagogical strategies as well. And finally, as someone for our Rutgers people in the room, you may be familiar with the Tea and Teaching events. When I was really inspired by that as I participated in it as an instructional designer at Rutgers. And when I landed at Montclair, I introduced a similar idea inspired by Tea and Teaching called Fridays with ITDS. And as you know, if you've attended Tea and Teaching at Rutgers, and if you haven't, I highly recommend it. But for us at Montclair, Fridays with ITDS is a bi-weekly interview series where I bring in faculty or members of administration to talk about the unique contributions being made by faculty, staff, and leadership at Montclair. So that's been really successful. So far, I've been really proud of that event. And we've had a few of the sessions so far, but we kicked it off in January. So I'm looking forward to doing a lot more of those in addition to all the other great events you're seeing related to our faculty development initiatives. And related to online program course design, again, for the instructional designers in the room, I don't think there's anything particularly new on this slide, but for faculty or staff in the room who are maybe interested in working with an instructional designer at your institution and want to hear a little bit more about what that process is, I just wanted to kind of briefly acknowledge that. But at Montclair, we have a number of programs that we work with through a formal course design process where we have our subject matter experts, so the faculty, who of course help us with the actual content development piece of the course. And then they collaborate with us, the instructional design team, to discuss things like aligning content with learning objectives, leveraging the technology, instructional technologies available to them to create the best learning experience for our students and designing practices that satisfy some of the big names of instructional design standards with UDL, QM, and of course, keeping accessibility in mind as well. And what that results in is a completed course design, which offers all these things that you see on the screen here related to achievement of learning objectives, use of technology, and enhanced instructor presence. And just to give you a quick snippet, because I want to make sure Chris has enough time as well, this is using the City Labs design tools, which Chris will talk about in a minute. This is kind of the standard template we use for our online degree programs. When faculty collaborate with us or programs collaborate with us, this is some of the things we can help bring to life using City Labs design tools in Canvas. And this is a snippet of what the course homepage looks like. And related to our course design process, you saw earlier our OSEA model outlined in our design toolkit. That screenshot I showed you before was from our course design toolkit, where we ask faculty to kind of think through some of these things related to learning objectives and how we're going to help students achieve the goals of that module. And this is what that looks like in its completed form when we work with faculty to come up with all of these things. And again, tying back into the OSEA model one more time, this is what a completed module in Canvas can look like using our OSEA model. So you see you have the orientation page here, the content page, which would list out all of the activity, all of the content for that module. And then we have an interaction point here with the discussion. And then, of course, in this case, this was just a homework assignment through the assessment. All right, so I'm going to turn things over to Chris. That wraps up kind of the pedagogical considerations of what we're doing at MSU. Chris is going to talk for the next 15 or 20 minutes or so about some of the technology we have at the university.
All right, thank you very much, Joe. So let's get started. This is actually one of my favorite things working as an instructional designer, because with the approach that we take to technology, we have two main objectives. And really, it's all aligned with supporting our students' ability to access their content. And we do that through a combination of using Canvas, Ally, and Design Plus from City Labs, and then also supporting our students' ability to engage with their content. So when we're looking at the technology that we want to bring in, faculty will come to us and say, hey, I have a really cool idea. I don't know how to do that. And we'll say, okay, let's see what tools that we have. And both of these kind of come together nicely because without having them have access to their content, it's hard to get them to engage with their content. And so the first tool that I'm going to talk about is one that you're all probably very familiar with, and that's Canvas. So Canvas is Montclair's learning management system. It was adopted in 2014 after we transitioned from Blackboard. I know that Rutgers, I think, just recently completed campus-wide their transition to Canvas as well. And like a lot of what Joe mentioned, the nice thing about Canvas is that we can have standardized syllabus and module templates applied into every course every semester. So faculty are walking in with some of the work kind of laid out for them. And in addition, we also support through regularly offered training classes for various topics like how to use the gradebook, how to create quizzes and assessments using different methods of best practices, how to lead more effective discussions, and how to kind of get into the more interesting and intricate parts of Canvas, like applying rubrics to your assessments and using them for grading, or even looking at outcomes. And so Canvas is our kind of foundational tool here. And so we like to have our faculty kind of get a nice, strong, comfort level with it before we start looking into the other tools. But laid within Canvas, we have two additional tools that help their students access their material. And the first one of that is Blackboard Ally. And Blackboard Ally, it's a really, really cool tool that, even if you're not using Blackboard, you're able to use it in other learning management systems. But what it is it really focuses on how accessible your content is. So Ally will take a look at any file that's added to Canvas, whether it's a doc, docx, PDF, PowerPoint, PPTX. And what it'll do is it'll look at that file and see, okay, how accessible is this file actually? Because, for someone who can see visually, we may look at a file and say, okay, totally fine. I can see it. It's there. But for someone who uses assistive technologies, there are varying levels of how accessible that file actually is. An ally represents that using those speedometers over on the right-hand side of this slide, where red is not very accessible or completely inaccessible. Orange is approaching accessible, and then green or dark green are highly accessible. And so what Ally will do is it'll also not only tell you that, hey, this file is not accessible, but it'll also tell you, hey, here's how you can fix it. Here's why it's important to add alternative text to your images, or make sure that your documents have a proper heading structure, because it helps folks who use assistive technology orient themselves within the document, or it'll help them understand the context of a picture that they can't otherwise see. And not only does it do this, it also produces alternative formats for uploaded files. So you could take a PowerPoint file or a Word document and download it in a different format, such as audio, an HTML document, and you can access the content that way. Which is huge, because not only is this helpful for folks who need the assistive technology, but for folks who may just want to take this document that they can't read because they're stuck in traffic and listen to it as an audio version. It just totally opens up different avenues that work well for different people. And additionally, with Ally, the thing that you have to keep in mind is the type of file that you put in is what you get out for those alternative formats. So you want to make sure that you have a highly accessible file before you start trying to take out audio from it. But it's a really great tool, and it really helps kind of put accessibility at the forefront, because any file that you add in there, you'll see how accessible it is. And then moving on to our next tool is City Labs. So this, you've seen it actually a couple times in Joe's portion of the presentation. City Labs Design Plus is a suite of design tools for creating really nice layouts in Canvas. I believe you guys probably use it at Rutgers, but for instructional designers, it's like Christmas getting these tools, because there's so many cool things that you can play with. You can do things like add a really nice homepage layout where you can customize the colors and photos, and you can create things like content blocks where you can move them around and rearrange the content on a page without having to dive into the HTML editor. And a lot of other things, like create tabs and accordions for organizing page contents. Create some really cool things like module progress bars that show you how far along the module you've gone. Add buttons and icons. And they're really cool. And not only do we use them as the instructional designers, but we've also started, I think as of this past fall, opening up these tools for our instructors. They're allowed to come take a hour-long training class with us where we go over the tools, and then by the end of it, they have access to this suite of tools, and they can customize and play around with their own pages without having to ask us to kind of help them through it. So for folks who are really ready and really comfortable, they can go in and create some really nice pages. And I can show you a couple examples of them that we have from our own courses. So over on the left-hand side, this is an example of something from a test course that I've made. But City Labs lets us create really nice homepages where we have a banner up at the top. We can have an image. It allows us to put quick links right underneath that image to major sections of the course, like the modules, the syllabus, a course schedule. You can add in instructor information so that they see it right there. And then you can even add in the list of modules. So for an 8-week course, 15-week course, it's all just right there on the homepage, everything that I need to know. And you can even say, hey, when we're in the week that this module happens, put a little green icon next to it so that students know, okay, that's where we are. And then over on the right-hand side, this is what the layout of a page looks like. Similar to the left-hand screenshot where we have the banner up at the top, this is from a computer science education course that I worked on with another faculty member. But you can kind of see the delineation of the content blocks where you have databases with an icon to kind of orient the students, citation guidelines, some emphasis boxes in there that kind of highlight important things, buttons that they can click on to go to different websites or download files. It just really helps kind of increase just the visual aesthetics of your course. And, students appreciate that. They can see the hard work that you put into it, and, they can appreciate how much you're invested in it. And so those are the three tools that we kind of look at for in terms of accessing the content. When we move over to engaging with the content, the first tool that we have here is Panopto. I believe Rutgers uses Kaltura as their video hosting platform, but we at Montclair, we use Panopto. So it's an all-in-one video platform that allows you to host videos, record videos, and edit videos. And it's a really, really nice tool because we can add it to Canvas pages. We can add it as a playlist on Canvas pages with a bunch of videos on there. You can even watch a video in Panopto's enhanced viewer. But all of the features that Panopto brings to the table are really why we wanted to adopt Panopto as our platform. And that's because it has really nice engagement tools, such as video quizzes and check for understandings that you can add into the video. So if you're going over a really important concept in biology, maybe you're talking about speciation, and you want to make sure that students understand, this really important topic about speciation, you can have a quiz pop up during the video, have students answer it, attempt, get it wrong, get it right, try again. But it helps them kind of keep moving and keep engaged with the video rather than just being kind of a passive participant. Panopto's editing features allow you to edit and trim recordings and undo those edits and trims. So you're recording, doorbell rings, dog starts barking. Ugh, now I have to start all over. Not the case. Just pause it, trim that out from the finished recording, and then you're good to go. And if you realize, ooh, I trimmed out a little too much, you can undo that trim. It also allows for automatic captioning and transcription services, which again is a huge bonus for folks who need captions in order to access the content. It also does PowerPoint and Keynote slide capture, and you can even allow your students to use Panopto to submit and create their own videos. And some of the ways that we have Panopto available in our courses, we can see over on if we take a step forward, this is one of the ways that students can access the video, where this is Panopto's enhanced view, where you have the instructor's video over on the left-hand side and the slide capture over on the right-hand side, which students have the opportunity to switch at will. They have a table of contents. There's a discussion that students can have right within the Panopto player. They can take notes, and the slide capture shows the progression of the slides right at the bottom. But if students don't want to go into Panopto, we can show how it's embedded on a Canvas page. So we may have a number of videos that we just put right into Canvas. They have the video right in the center there. There's a playlist that pops out where you can click on the videos to load them. And we usually include, using City Labs, Design Plus tools, a little note at the top where we can say, hey, you can view the videos here, or you can take a look at that enhanced Panopto viewer to get some additional features. And that's our main method of engaging for video content. But how do we use other tools? So one of my, I love these tools so much. I think they're so cool. Social annotation tools like Perusal and Hypothesis. They're huge. They make the solo experience of reading social. Because a lot of times students might not do the readings because they don't see the value of it, or they get confused and frustrated and they just kind of give up. But with something like Perusal or Hypothesis, students can go through the readings together, and whenever they highlight something, they can add a comment. So they can highlight a passage of text and say, oh, I thought this was really important, or I actually really liked this, or I'm kind of confused about this. And then other students and the instructor can see those highlights and have a discussion about them over on the, the sidebar. Um, so if someone's having a hard time understanding a concept, another student can come in and say, "Oh, I thought of it like this, and that kind of helped me figure out how this worked." Or, I'm also kind of having that problem too. Um, and so it helps make that solo process a lot more social. And it allows for close reading and annotation and discussion. And it really helps you kind of build a community around the readings, which is especially helpful for asynchronous courses where the students, in synchronous courses, especially live face-to-face ones, students can kind of come together in the classroom beforehand and be like, did you understand that? I didn't really get it. Can you explain that? But for asynchronous courses where the students don't ever really get to interact with each other, this is a huge touch point for them to be able to talk with one another and kind of build relationships with each other. And so moving on from social annotation, but keeping that same theme of increasing community and interaction between students, we have Flipgrid. And so Flipgrid is another online discussion tool that allows for video responses to discussion prompts. A lot of us are familiar with Canvas discussion boards where, you kind of just have a bit of text and you reply to it with a bit of text. And it's kind of not the same as being able to get a sense for the cadence of someone's voice or, the timbre or just their personality. If I was just writing text responses, you wouldn't understand that I'm Italian because I'm talking with my hands constantly. But using something like Flipgrid, you can kind of understand that, okay, I see who Chris is. I can kind of understand him because I'm watching him and listening to him. And it's really helpful for, especially we've seen in introductory discussions where students are able to introduce themselves. You get to know them. You start putting a face to, the name. And it helps, again, support that interpersonal connection in asynchronous environments. And a similar tool to Flipgrid that we also like is VoiceThread, and it's our newer tool. I think Rutgers has had it for a little bit longer than us, so you guys might be more familiar with it than we are. But it's another discussion tool that's centered more around documents, audio, and/or video. So an instructor would put forth a presentation or maybe a video, and as students are watching it or going through it or listening, they can take a pause and add a comment. So if I'm watching a lecture, I can pause the video, add a comment, which is either text, video, or voice, and add my comments. And then as other students are watching, they can then see, oh, Chris had a comment here at, 1 minute and 45 seconds. I wonder what that's about. Where, they can then say, oh, hey, I didn't actually consider that when I was watching this, or, I'm not really sure I agree with that. And, you're increasing engagement with the material by encouraging discussions, which, it's sometimes hard to do that in face-to-face classes because you're worried about, oh, I got to make sure we have enough time for this. I really don't want to cut off this discussion. It's really interesting, but we have to move along. But for an asynchronous format, VoiceThread is great because, you have all the time in the world, within the constraints of the module in the semester. But anyway, it's a really nice tool that I'm excited to use a lot more and recommend to a lot more folks. But if you guys have experience with VoiceThread, I'm more than happy to hear about your successes with it. And then finally, one other set of tools that I really, really enjoy, because I really believe highly about just how useful they are as formative assessment tools, are polling tools. We started off our session today with a poll asking just kind of, what role are you in your professional experience? And it's a way for us to kind of get a sense of who we have. And polling tools are great for that because they can help kind of give you an idea of who's out there in your audience, who's out there in your class, to kind of break the ice a bit and kind of get everyone talking and, having that initial steps of community. But I also see them really valuable as formative assessment tools because it's so, so, so important to be able to know for your students, where are you with your understanding about material that's being discussed? for instructors, it's really nice to be able to see, okay, I just went over a whole thing about primary succession and secondary succession, and no one got it. That's a problem. I want to make sure I can correct that before, the exam or before we have an assessment. And it gives you a chance to kind of see, all right, we're really good on genetics. We got it. Perfect. But this other material, I might need to reinforce. And for your students, it also helps them understand, oh man, I don't really get how photosynthesis works. I should probably brush up on that before the exam. And it's just such a really good tool for taking that sense of formative assessment before the big one. And there's two main tools that we like to recommend at Montclair. We don't have a official license for any of them currently, but the nice thing is that both Kahoot and Poll Everywhere offer free versions. Kahoot, it's a very popular tool in K-12. That was actually how I first learned about it. During my student teaching, I learned from a cooperating teacher that Kahoot was the best thing. But it's nice because it allows you to pose multiple choice and true-false questions. And then after running a gamified poll, which you have the option to choose to gamify or not gamify, you can then really review those detailed reports afterwards and then use that to kind of inform, okay, do I have to reinforce something? Do I have to kind of really shore up something for my students? And all of that's available at the free tier. With Poll Everywhere, they offer a little bit less at the free tier. They're geared more towards a professional audience, but they have such a robust set of questions. They have something like a clickable map or a clickable image where you can put up a diagram and say, hey, find out where ATP is being generated in the Krebs cycle. And you can have students click on it and choose the answer. And that's the way that the question is run. Both of these work by having students join on their personal devices. So if they have a phone, a laptop, a tablet, pretty soon I wouldn't be surprised if they can do it on their Apple Watch. But it allows them to kind of do it without you having to worry about, okay, I got to pass out the clickers, I got to pass out the index cards. And so they're really nice tools for just kind of getting those quick informal surveys. And I absolutely love them. I think with that, we have roughly 8 minutes for question.
I think 8 minutes or so. The chat has been very lively, which has been great just to kind of listen and take in what everyone is sharing. And I'm glad that this presentation for the Rutgers crowd, it looks like it posed a lot of questions about what Rutgers has and support available for some of these tools that we shared, about what we're doing at Montclair, but then some of the similar support and tools available at Rutgers. And then I see just a lot of conversation and sharing about what everyone is doing at their respective institutions. So this has been really great. We wanted to carve out a little bit of time for questions. So if anyone has any questions, I know there were some coming in during the session. I've been trying to kind of make mental notes. I want to scroll way back up. I think Amy asked one way kind of in the middle of the presentation. I think it was related to, there it is. Do you integrate the ADDIE model with OSEA for instructors? If so, how? Or do you see these models as having separate functions? So, and Chris, you can chime in too, of course. For us, I feel like yes, but not in a formal way. Like I think the OSEA model in a way was inspired for more so the design, development, and implementation pieces of the ADDIE model. The analysis side, I would say, happens more in collaboration with an instructional designer for our online degree programs. That's where we really take that time before we even touch Canvas to get into sort of the weeds about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how we're doing it. During that analysis, that's where we talk about for faculty who have taught the course before in a face-to-face setting and we're moving it as part of an online program. moving it to an online delivery. That's where we talk about the feedback from the face-to-face version, how we can incorporate that into. So that analysis, I would say, happens again more so in our fully online degree program course design cycles. And then the evaluation piece, we do, Chris, is a five-year redesign cycle, 4-year?
I believe it's 4-year.
A 4-year redesign cycle. So every 4 years. So if you work with us for an online degree program course and 4 years go by, we come back and we do a formal redesign, and that's where we kind of take in what's happened over the past 4 years that the course has been offered in regards to student feedback and instructor kind of opinion on how the course went and what can be different, and then we go through that redesign process.
And then even then, as we're working with our SMEs, we're in constant contact with them every semester to help them set up their courses, and we'll also say, hey, how did the course go? Some SMEs are very proactive about just updating their course every semester, independent of that 4-year official redesign cycle. So we're always asking them, if there's anything that you think went well or you'd want to change for the next semester, just let us know, and we'll collaborate with them, semester to semester.
And there's a handful of questions, so I'm just going to pick one at random, I guess. Let's say a constant challenge at time is, how do we engage staff who do not want to use technology as they do not feel it is their responsibility, as they are more there to deliver content? Interesting question. I would say, when faculty, at least when they come to us, if it's not part of a formal course design process, they're coming to us usually because they're interested in learning more about what there is to see and do in Canvas with the technologies and whatnot. So I feel like, because it's not us necessarily cold calling and in that regard, they're coming to us with this piqued curiosity maybe about how to make the course better. So I feel like that makes our work at Montclair a little bit easier in that regard. What do you think, Chris? Do you have any thoughts on that?
I was trying to find the question.
Want to read it again? Constant challenge at this time is, how do we engage staff who do not want to use technology as they do not feel it is their responsibility, because they're just there to deliver content? So I guess the in a sense, the need to learn the tech, but being like, oh, well, I'm just here to deliver content, not how to learn how to use Canvas or its tools.
Yeah, that is always a tough one. Personally, I haven't yet had any experience with instructors who haven't been receptive to at least some kind of technology. So it may just be a matter of kind of framing, well, I know you're not, you want to deliver your content. Well, here's a couple ways that you might be able to deliver it in different ways. Have you had experiences with students not really kind of being able to read, or kind of get as much out of the reading as you want? Well, we have some things here. What about your lectures? Do you want to create a little bit more of an engaging lecture process? Here's something like Panopto, or maybe it's something as simple as just, here, why don't you try out using a polling software, just to kind of use it as an icebreaker, and just kind of finding ways that we can kind of encourage them. It's not a huge thing to integrate even this tiny bit of technology, even if it's just one tool a semester, or one tool per year. Just kind of helping them see the benefits of how they can, how bringing something in like that can enhance their teaching practices. And then we also encourage them to kind of attend some of our events where they can see, like, oh, okay, now I can kind of see how this might be useful, or attending one of our workshops, or our facilitated courses, where we kind of go over, these are some tools that you'll be able to use, or this is what, this is how you could do something like create really good, engaging lecture materials or media. So it's just kind of, encouraging them to give it a shot, and maybe even trying it with them.
Just to let you know, we have about 1 more minute before the session expires today. So if you have any important questions we want to get to, thank you.
We'll do a little speed round, right? So Denise asked, do faculty and IDs work together to produce a blueprint? So getting back to, there was a slide I had earlier with our course design toolkit. I would say that's kind of the blueprint phase of sorts, where we map things out outside of Canvas to encourage them to think through some of those questions related to the course design without getting too into the weeds with Canvas at the beginning. Scrolling. Was there anything else?
There's one question that I'm personally just going to answer. Because there was a question about using Panopto in conjunction with something like Loom or Screencast-O-Matic. I love Loom. I think it's a great tool. Panopto is really good for faculty who are recording their videos, but bringing something in like Loom for having your students record videos, I think that's a great opportunity to use such a simple screencasting software to make such a huge difference. So even just using one tool like Panopto, you can bring in other tools as well. So I wanted to just point that out.
And I think we're just about out of time. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of your questions, but do please feel free. Both of our emails are on the screen, yankusj@montclair.edu for me and petrilloc@montclair.edu for Chris. Thank you so much for joining us today. Great to see all of you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the sessions.
Thank you so much, Joseph and Chris. Take care, everyone, and enjoy the rest of the sessions today.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.